again to the Iron City Roundhouse Report, the podcast where the love for the high iron meets the precision of the scale model. Whether you're tracking the latest Class 1 freight movements or perfecting the scenery on your home layout, we're here to celebrate the history and hobby of railroading. Climb aboard and settle in as we clear the signals for another journey through the world of trains. Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to another episode of the Iron City Roundhouse Report. Pat and I are coming to you again here for, I believe now we are on episode 6 of season 2. And Pat, I do believe we're nearing a couple milestones here. Do you know the ones I'm talking about, or shall I go into those? I kind of surprised you with this.
I think I know, but I'm gonna guess on one. I don't know the second one. The first one is I think we're up to almost 10,000 downloads.
Yes, that is one of them. We are approaching the 10,000 download milestone. That is correct. The other one, which I'm sure you're aware of, but maybe just didn't pop into your head, we are rapidly approaching the 1-year anniversary of the start of the Iron City Roundhouse Report. And just, I guess to start things off, we would be remiss if we did not thank our viewers for probably enabling us to hit 10,000 downloads before we've even been doing this for a year. I am not an expert on podcast metrics, but I'm pretty pleased with that, and we owe it all to our listeners for that. We can't thank you guys enough for tuning in with this, so thank you for that, and we hope everyone continues downloading and listening and just enjoying what we're doing here, and we're glad that a bunch of you guys are enjoying it too. So from the bottom of our hearts, thank you for helping us to reach those 2 milestones, because if it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't have made it through 1 year. If this would have fizzled and nobody took any interest in it, there wouldn't have been much point in us continuing. But the fact that you guys continue to listen and continue to download just motivates us to keep doing this. So those 2 important milestones, which might end up occurring within a few weeks of one another, are coming up, and thank you to all of our listeners for that. We cannot say how much we appreciate that. What do you think, Pat?
I'm just astonished because this is just a hobby for us, almost like our model railroading, just a branch of our hobby, and we have done 0 advertising. I do share the podcast on several pages just to tell people, hey, the podcast is out for your downloading pleasure, but we don't advertise. And so this is all word of mouth, and very pleased. We could always do better, and I know we will, but we have a total of 0 staff and 0 funding. And Brad and I have made a conscious decision. You know, we have set up our podcast in case in the future we want to do local advertising or advertising, but Brad and I have not come to that conclusion yet. And it's kind of nice just to roll through our podcast without having to hear any commercials or anything. So I know a lot of people appreciate that too.
Yeah, and we said right from the very beginning with this, if we don't reach any audience besides our all of our good friends that we have on the Iron City group and Iron City Facebook page, that would be enough for us. If it's something that enhances our enjoyment of the hobby and enhances the Iron City memberships enjoyment of the hobby, then it's well worth it for us to do that. And I think the results that we've gotten have borne that out, that part of it has been a success, and we're not ruling anything out for the future. We may decide to do some of those things that you just mentioned later on, but my thinking on it is right now we both have full-time jobs. You have 2 of them. And, to make this more than a hobby at this point, I just, like you said, I am not at that point where I think that's something that we need to try to do yet, where it becomes more like a job, that you're trying to monetize them. But, who knows what may happen down the road. But I will say this, it's my wish that at least what we're doing now, the one podcast every couple weeks, there will, if we at some point do decide to try to make a few bucks off this, I think, Pat, and feel free to disagree with me, but we should at least have what we're doing now still be free to all of our listeners, just to show the appreciation that they have. And if it comes to the point where we decide to try to expand it, it'll be additional podcasts that we do that, might be on a Patreon channel or advertising or something. But that's
Right.
all down the road. For right now, I'm perfectly content with things as they are and with the listener base that we have. It is appreciated. I'm not just saying that. We appreciate so much the people who tune in week to week. So thank you.
And Brad, we also are very happy to have the feedback that we have about our page and the idea behind the podcast is twofold. It's to promote a still growing Facebook page, still growing every week, new members every week, because the page is, I believe, has a lot of interaction with it. We have Iron City showcases, we have Iron City clinics, we have the photo of the month, which is sponsored now by Whistle Stop Models, and each month someone can win a prize. This is all something that's evolving, and the page is becoming so, how do I put it? So much input into the page by our members that there's not a day that doesn't go by that I'm astonished by the modeling and what our members do to enhance the page. It's a great community, and I'm glad that the podcast is just a part of that community.
Yeah, it's a branch off of it. That
Yeah,
definitely. I can remember a time when if one of the original 6 or 7 didn't post for a couple days, or then the page was nothing was going on. But
right.
now you and I and some of the other guys can go weeks without posting stuff, and there's like activity almost more than you can keep track of. So that's awesome too. And I have to believe that I think this podcast has probably gained us new members on the Facebook. I think the two are
Absolutely.
enhancing one another. Our YouTube channel is still growing steadily, so that is appreciated as well. You talked about our showcases. I just posted the video from David Hyde's wonderful showcase that he did for us last week, which I knew David had a really nice layout because I had seen pictures of it. I've never been to see it. I would love to go there sometime, but just to be in that room, when he had the camera going, it's like, wow, that is even nicer than what I thought it was. So,
Especially when he goes, and up on the second deck. I was like,
yeah.
oh
Yeah.
boy.
How about all those trucks he has on there?
Oh
He
no.
has really awesome looking trucks. But anyhow, that just got posted to our YouTube channel today. And the reason, I think we've been through this before, but for many who missed it, Facebook recently changed to where if you do a Facebook Live video, it cannot be available for any more than 30 days. And at the end of 30 days, it disappears and it's gone. And I just think it would be a huge shame, for something that valuable that people enjoyed so much as David's and our other showcases, for those to disappear into the ether and never to be seen again. So any of those showcases like Chris Adams and David Hyde's, and we'll have more upcoming, if the owner of the video is willing, we'll always be posting them on the YouTube page. So they're basically available forever. So that's another helpful use for that YouTube channel that we got.
Absolutely. Okay, Brad, are we ready for the Roundhouse Report this evening?
I am ready, Pat.
Okay. Do you want to go first?
If you would like me to, I would be more than happy. Yes.
Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
All right. So for my issue of the Roundhouse Report, I want to give a shout out to our good friend. He's been here with us since near the very beginning. I think he was the second special guest we ever had on here. Our good friend from up north, Chris Ketch, recently posted a video. I guess it was a few days ago now, but he posted a video of a train that he had weathered. It was his freelance railroad, the Buffalo and Susquehanna, pulling a coal drag of coal hopper. He weathered, it looks like, the locomotives. It looked like 2 Jeep 30s, maybe they were. Let me look at the front units. Definitely, yeah, 2 GP 30s, and then a nice string of hoppers, all very nicely weathered by Chris. I don't know how much weathering he's done. This is, I think, the first example, at least the first entire train that he's weathered, and I think he said he spent all day huffing paint fumes. So that kind of explains a lot about Chris, if you know him. If he does a lot of that, but just a beautiful job, Chris, and thanks for sharing that. That was a nice looking weathered train, and it was really good to see that. And love those that blue Buffalo and Susquehanna paint scheme he has. In fact, I love it so much that I bought a whole bunch of those engines from the guys who did it for him. But yeah, thanks to Chris for sharing his work, and looks like he's developing some really good weathering skills. So well done, Chris, and thank you for sharing that to the Iron City Facebook page.
Brad, you're talking. It reminded me that we owe Chris another podcast with him and the historian Richard Shirey, so we could go over some more freelance tips about starting your own freelance railroad. And I know Chris has done a great job with his. And we had talked to him and discussed on the third ever podcast
Yeah,
in season one about freelance railroads and how writing the backstory and everything and maybe knowing some local history. So we'll definitely have to get him back on. I thought that's one of my favorite subjects about the hobby. So
yeah, for sure.
definitely try to grab him on.
Yeah, we have another one coming up with Richard too that we were planning out. Just
Oh, that's right.
the fun thing is we got a lot of stuff lined up. That's the great thing about again mentioning how the two things go hand in hand, the podcast and the Facebook page both feed each other.
Yeah.
We're never at a loss for someone to come on here and talk to just because of all the just really fantastic people that have joined the Iron City Facebook group. And that just, the podcast enhances the page and the page enhances the podcast as far as I'm concerned. And Richard and Chris are just two really good examples of the good people that we've been fortunate enough to hook up with here. And so, yeah, that's a preview of some things to come for sure. And, looking forward to both of them. I mean, to what you mentioned, and Richard and I have been talking about doing something which we won't let the cat out of the bag here, but another topic, Pat, that I think you'll be interested in. So
Okay.
we'll have to find time to get all these in. And it's hard to believe we're already we're almost 4 months into season 2 already.
Yeah, that goes pretty quick.
Yeah, it sure does. It sure does. Yep.
Hey, Brad, I had my pick tonight is from the question of the week that, man, we just knocked this question out of the week out of the park, Brad. We asked people, hey, what is your favorite scene or section of your layout? Or what's your favorite module that you've done? And man, we've had over almost 70 people reply to this. And I'm going to be using this, I think, this one questionnaire for for a couple of months because I won't be able to get a hold of everybody and say everyone's name. But I am just so happy to see such great modeling and at the same time tears of sadness that the West Pin is never going to look like any of this.
I keep that's a good bit, but you don't give yourself enough credit, buddy. Your layout is pretty good looking, I think.
I tell you what, though, man, you see these guys and you're like, man, everything from
Oh yeah.
the details of the slightest little details and extras and 3D printing. Some of this stuff is now weathering. And I'll just go over just a few names here, Brad, just for this episode. And like I said, I'll catch up with the others. Like I said, we had over 67 Iron City members post their favorite scene. And
That's gotta be approaching a record for the
that is
best of the week, isn't it?
that is a record. And
Yeah.
I think the neat thing is, each person, this is their favorite scene. You know what I mean? If you see these guys' layouts, I'm sure people might say, "Well, I like that," but this is where they like the rail fan on their layout that they built. So I thought that's a unique thing. Hey, I really like this little corner of my layout and everything.
Yeah,
Um,
that's really awesome.
so Phil Bagley, he has the Nazarene Portland cement silos in N-scale. I thought that was just really sharp. The way the lettering is on the silos and he has a weathered boxcar on there, and it's just really good. Brad, you said you knew this next guy pretty well. That's Michael Hulk or
Yeah.
Hulk. He did his Wheelersville, PA photo, just outstanding.
Hmm.
The detail is, the minute little detail from the rust on the building to the weathered track, the tin roof on the overhang, just really, really nice.
Yeah, Mike is an outstanding modeler in every way. I think I think we mentioned this off air before we came on, but he was on his layout was a feature layout on the cover of Railroad Model Craftsman not that long ago. I'm thinking it was only maybe a year or possibly a little more ago that I'm trying to remember the name of his layout, but it is absolutely beautiful, and he is a very accomplished modeler in every sense of the word. So
Absolutely. And then my third one, just on this one of the 67, like I said, we'll have to do this a couple of times.
yeah,
Adam Henry, 3D printed laser cut shingles on his is it Glyden, Maryland, his station,
yeah,
and
wow,
whew, he
yeah,
says laid those one row at a time. I'm sure you did, Adam.
yeah.
Great
Our
looking.
buddy, our good buddy from down south, Scott Lister, has something that he calls the Lister zipper. I'm not exactly even sure how it works, but he uses that somehow to get like rows of shingles on. I know it's not easy to do, especially in N scale. So yeah, hats off to anybody who has the patience for that.
Brad, I'll go one more really quick. Our,
Yep.
our our buddy Andy Zimmerman has a newest edition. It's called the Black Diamond Ridge Coal Mine. It's a T-track module, and he's got. I think the cool thing about this is the lighting he used.
Yeah.
He's got the red and green lights on the track. He's got all kinds of light. He's got one of those New River mine kits, and
Hmm.
just really well, really nicely lit and detailed. And that is one of his new T tracks. So those are the four guys I'll mention this evening for our our report for the Roundhouse Report for this week.
Yeah.
But
I gotta give a shout out to Andy too. He really just about there he so many of his modules he does a really really good job with lighting on them. I think he's got a bunch of if you've ever seen him post those, he has like downtown scenes, with street scenes and like middle of town buildings, and the lighting he puts into him just looks incredible in a lot of his photos. And that mine scene that you mentioned is certainly no exception to that. That's just
yeah,
fantastic work.
I mean, there's so many more names I'm going to be able to do here in the future.
Yeah.
But those were three I have never mentioned on the podcast before, so I wanted to get some new guys that are posting
Hmm.
kind of their due. And like I said, there's more on there that I'll come back to, I think, in a couple of weeks and on our report and post. So
Yeah, we should probably try to pin that post or something
yeah,
to keep
yeah,
it because we were both talking offline again about how it's probably just because we're old, but we find a Facebook post that we want to talk about and then it goes and disappears someplace.
right,
Never to be found again. So
yeah.
yeah.
Okay, Brad, this is episode 6, part 2. Ron Marsh talking about his social media empire and his YouTube channel and just some great things about the hobby on social media. So, Brad, with that, we'll be back right after this. Hey, everybody, we're back with Ron and Brad, and we're talking all things model railroad on N scale. And Ron has been very generous to give us his time this evening to talk about his layout. But we have a whole nother section that we want to talk about, and that's Ron's social media, his YouTube channel, and his development of social media in the hobby. So, Ron, welcome back for the part 2.
Thank you.
And Brad,
And
welcome back too with
thank you.
with me tonight.
Thank you, Pat.
asking a lot of questions tonight, but that's because we have Ron Marsh here, and man, he's got a wealth of information of everything he's doing. The other
Just
thing too is
just a lot of interesting stuff that we need to unpack. So it's
that's right,
great to have Ron here and I'm enjoying the conversation for sure.
Thank you. Me
and
too. Me too.
Good.
and for two guys that are stumbling around the internet right now trying to do a podcast, a YouTube channel ourselves, I understand the hobby within the hobby within the hobby. So it is kind of fun to jump into the social media aspect of the hobby. Brad and I started with 6 people on our Facebook page. We're up to 3,000. It's a private page. It's not public, but we invite people to come onto the page. We just started a podcast last year. We're just starting the season 2. And now we've decided, hey, let's do some videos too. We pull because of Facebook's new rules. We have a lot of different things we do. We have showcases, we have clinics, and those are only good for 30 days. So Brad and I decided, hey, we're going to throw all these onto YouTube so we don't lose them. So as we stumble through all this, it's going to be great to ask you a lot of questions about what you did and how you started and how you got into it. So with that, we'll start part 2. Ron, what gave you the push or what gave you the indication to start the YouTube channel?
Well, that's a longer story than it might seem like. When I got into model railroading, of course, at that time, I, I've always lived in small towns. I didn't have a lot of other model railroaders around, model railroad clubs. So I was really dependent on the hobby press to learn about model railroading, to learn how to do what I wanted to do. And so, I when I first got into it, I immediately subscribed to Model Railroader magazine, and over time Railroad Model Craftsman and InScale and a few others, and was just, avidly reading everything that I could. But I'm a very visual learner. And so the idea of video always appealed to me. The problem back then was the only way you could get video was to purchase some video series, and they were pretty expensive. I mean, I was a a young adult kid and didn't have the funds for that, so that just didn't exist. Moving forward, I'd always kind of desired to contribute to the hobby press, to write for some articles for a magazine. I had the writing skills. The problem was it seemed like I could never get a layout far enough along to be able to get those beautiful photos that they want for those, understandably, for those kind of magazines. Then in would have been in the fall of 2016. I was stuck out somewhere for a weekend where I had nothing to do except I had a laptop and Wi-Fi available. And I was a very casual YouTube user. I watched YouTube for some entertainment. I watched YouTube whenever I needed to repair something. I had never even considered searching for model railroad content on YouTube. And somehow that weekend, I ran across a model railroad YouTube channel that if I named the channel, everybody here would know what the channel was, would be familiar with it. And at that time, that channel had been on for about 4 years and had been making monthly content. And so I sat there that Saturday and literally just binge watched everything that was on that channel. And that channel made a variety type of model railroad content. There was some prototype stuff, there was some photography stuff, there was some buildings, just a wide variety of things. And I walked away from that experience thinking, and this is why I haven't named the channel, I thought, I could do that. And most of it, I think I could do better. So I kind of had that thought in the back of my mind. Maybe I should start making some video. I had some photography experience. I had virtually no video making experience. The only video editing experience I had was a little bit of very, very amateur stuff that I had done with the old Windows Movie Maker. So it's really, really no experience, just kind of an idea. That rolled around in my head for about 6 months, and I began to watch other model railroad content on YouTube. And then in the spring of 2017, I had gotten familiar with a YouTube channel. The channel is IMRRO.com. It's hosted by my friend, longtime friend now, Eric Hall. And at that time, Eric was doing daily model railroad blogs. He would work on his layout in the morning and video it and edit it and publish it in the afternoon, 4 days a week. But he was hosting a model building contest, and it was a video-based contest. Build a structure. It could be a kit. It could be a kit bash. It could be a scratch build. but you had to make a series of videos about how you built it, and then the contest was judged on both the model building and the videos. And I thought, well, this is obviously the perfect time. So in April of 2017, I started the YouTube channel, and the first thing I did was publish 3 videos for that contest, and that went pretty well. And so I thought, okay, I've got the start. Now I'm going to do this variety, content like I kind of had in mind. And so, I did some more how-to stuff. My fourth video after that contest was a tree making video, and that was just really, really well received. And then I tried to do some tool reviews, and I tried to do some prototype stuff, and I tried to do some hobby shop, visits. Nobody wanted to see any of that. All people wanted out of my channel was the how-to stuff. So after a couple of months, I'm like, okay, well, Ron's Trains and Things is a how-to channel. And so that's kind of where I landed, and that's what I've been ever since. I have tried a variety of ways, and I think I've landed on a process that seems to work pretty well with my audience anyway, for filming the process of doing whatever it is that I'm doing in model railroading and publishing it as how-to content, which is funny because I'm not always sure I know how to, and believe me, sometimes people tell me that I do not know how to, but sharing my knowledge and my ignorance all at the same time. So that's kind of how it started. Of course, again, as a pastor, I was a public speaker. Speaking to a camera is different than speaking to people, but it was an advantage. People responded to my on-camera personality right off the bat. And so the channel, I mean, I don't want to say it exploded in YouTube terms. Nothing model railroad explodes like that. But I had 100 subscribers in 3 weeks. Back then, the monetization threshold was 500 subscribers. I had 500 subscribers and was monetized in 2 months. I hit 1,000 subscribers in 4 months, and I had my first brand approach me about doing videos for contract for them within 6 months. So, I mean, it really, really outperformed my expectations exponentially right from the beginning.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that, Ron. That's
Thank you.
impressive for
Yeah.
sure. Yes. Yeah.
So I'll go back. I'm going to skip a question here, Ron, and I'll come back to it because you mentioned something about your content and how you became like a, how do you, almost like a DIY or,
Yeah,
or
tutorial kind of channel. Yeah.
yeah. So how did you know to drive to that? Was it just feedback from your viewers or just the viewership, or how did you know, hey, I've got something golden here. It's something that people want to, was it feedback? Was it, emails, text? How did you know that, hey, I've got something here? What drives your
It,
content?
I think two things. I mean, number one was just viewership. I mean, people look at a thumbnail, they look at a title, they can see, where this video is going. And when I would do a how-to, whether it was a structure building or whether it was weathering a car, whether it was building scenery, whatever, if it was a how-to, it would get views. And if it was anything but a how-to, it would get a lot less views. And then I would get just a lot of really good positive feedback on the how-to stuff. To this day, the majority of my viewers are beginners in the hobby, or are people who were in the hobby as young people and then have been out of it for decades. Now, many of them are approaching retirement. About 70% of my viewers are 50 years older and 50 or older. So people who are approaching retirement or are retired, they've got the time, they've got the funds, they want to get back into model railroading. But hey, guess what? When I was in model railroading as a kid, DCC didn't exist, and all these products and all this technology didn't exist. And so hey, how do I do this? And they're out there. I've got a really strong, loyal viewership, but I have much higher than average for YouTube search traffic. People who are just looking for a solution. How do I do this? How do I apply static grass? How do I weather a structure? Whatever. And so I get a lot of that search traffic from those folks.
So Ron, how do you not get monotonous or just keep doing the same thing and over? How you direct your pattern of shows for that year or that season you want to do?
Well, I'd like to say I've got this great organized master plan. But the real truth of the matter is, I just film whatever it is I'm doing as I build my model railroad.
Gotcha.
There
Gotcha.
are exceptions to that. Once in a while, somebody will ask me, a question, or I'll get several questions on a topic, and so I may go do something that is not necessarily for my railroad, specifically for video, but that's the exception, not the rule. Specifically, I'll get wiring questions, electronics questions. Well, I'm well past the wiring stage on my layout, but I can find opportunities to go back and recover those. Unfortunately, the main part of my layout, the bench work, was long since built before I ever started making video. But the expansion gave me an opportunity to do some videos on a couple of different kinds of bench work, as well as backdrops and fascias and all kinds of things there. But for the most part, I film what I'm building. And as far as like the repetition is concerned, that used to concern me, and I've quit being concerned about that, because for the most part, when I publish a video on a topic, 6 months later, I can publish another video on that same topic, and and if it's a good video, it'll do just as well. You've got new viewers coming in. You've got people who need a refresher. You get, a little bit of a different slant on things. Tree making, making pine trees. I've made 3 different videos about 3 different ways that I make pine trees, and they've all done very well. And each one was better because each process was better, because I was finding ways of making them that I liked better than I did before. So,
Yeah, that was
I
going to I was going to say that as you become a better modeler and film again, you're showing people, hey, look, this was stage one, this is stage two. Now I'm at stage three of my modeling here, and that you're growing with your audience as
yeah.
you build your layout.
Well, I'll give you an example of that. For a while, I became really strongly either loved or hated as the no-ox guy for track cleaning and track treatment, because I made it is the biggest video to this day on my layout, a video about track cleaning and using no-ox to treat the rails to keep oxidation down. And I believe in that system. I still use it, and it works great for me. Before that, I had made another track cleaning video, probably 2 years before that, in which I used some chemicals in a CMX cleaning car that I would never use today. And ultimately, I unlisted that first video because I thought, this is some advice that I thought sounded good at the time, but I don't really think anybody should do now. So yeah, I didn't delete it. I wanted to save the views that were on that video, but I unlisted it. So the only way anybody can even see that video is if they happen to have a link to it. Now all they can see is the later ones about track cleaning and the no-wax situation.
So, Ron, what do you think? And I'm moving on here to our next part of social media. What do you think you find most interesting, the new development in the hobby and social media? What trends are you seeing in social media with our hobby?
Well, I think a lot has been made, and rightfully so, about the social aspect, obviously, that comes along. Just the ability to connect with people that are interested in the same thing that you're interested in, and have some of the same questions, but not just to talk about model railroading, but just to get to know people who are model railroaders, I think is huge. And I've been able to make literally thousands of friends, literally hundreds that I could call friends on a first name basis, just through combination of YouTube and Facebook primarily, just because we've been able to connect that way and get to know one another that way. The wealth of information that's out there. I wish that I had a resource like my channel whenever I started in model railroading. It would have been a huge help, and I think I could have grown in the hobby so much faster than I did before. And there are so many great YouTube channels, and other sources out there of information to just to help you be able to do the hobby. And again, I do the how-to thing. There aren't very many YouTube model railroad how-to type channels. There are a few. There are a lot that show, that do layout progress videos. Okay, they don't show you how they do it, but okay, here's what I have done in the past week or the past month. And then there are a lot of them that are just social kinds of channels where people can just get on and have, the connection to other people. And, I've just discovered that, I can offer one thing in one niche, and that's what people love about my channel. Other channels do completely different things that are, different from what I'm interested in, but there are people out there who love that, and so I'm glad it's there for them.
Ron, when you're explaining things on your video, what kind of pace do you try to keep at so that you got the audience, locked in and you're working and they're maybe following along with you? What kind of pace do you try to keep so you don't lose people or they don't have to stop the video and take notes? How do you control that when you're doing one of your videos?
Well, the key to that for me is voiceover. When I first started, I would try doing projects and narrate what I was doing as I did it in real time. That's a disaster for me anyway, because it takes a lot longer to do the thing than it does to explain it. So I find myself rambling on, about whatever while and then, you realize, well, people really didn't need to see me, you know, doing this same glue joint for the last 15 minutes. They probably only need to see two of them. So for most projects that I do, I mean, I've got a camera rig over my workbench, and I film, a large percentage of me doing the projects that I do. What actually makes it into video, I probably 5% of what I actually videotape. So then I go back through and watch on fast forward my own video that I've shot, and I write a voiceover script that explains exactly what I'm doing, and then I clip those things together. And then as far as pacing is concerned, usually I could time those things out about right. My explanation in the voiceover will typically kind of coincide with enough of the video that you see what needs to be done. And if you just need to see some more, I have a little background music that plays in the back, and I just let the video go while you see what you need to see to know how I accomplished that particular step. I do all of that recording before I write the voiceover, and then I watch through it and write the voiceover before I record my intro and my closing, and those are the last things that I do, and then dump it all into a video editor and edit it together into hopefully something that's worth watching.
So Brad and I have found this hobby of podcasting and video. We found it's a hobby within a hobby.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
and so, can you tell us a little bit about maybe the lighting you're using, or the equipment, the camera, your microphones? How did you learn how to do all that? And was it just trial and error, or did you have another page or something else that you looked at? And then a follow up question to that is: are you using any AI at all to help you now?
Um, okay, as far as process and equipment, this is just the kind of guy I am. Whenever I got into model railroading, the first thing I did was discovered the model railroad magazines and bought every one that I could get my hands on and read them. I'm kind of a self learner. That's just kind of a hobby guy I am. When I'm interested in something, I'm highly motivated to learn about it. When it came to doing YouTube, the best resource for learning how to do YouTube was YouTube. When I first started the channel, I remember telling my wife, I said, I think I know the best way to grow a channel on YouTube, and that is to start a channel about how to grow a channel on YouTube, because those were the ones that were exploding. So I just started, watch. All right, when I started, I had a camera. I had an old DSLR camera that would shoot video in 720 780p 720p. I'll say that right in a minute. Which was low end high def at the time. I mean, it was, if you go look back at some of those videos, you can say, it's a little rough, but I had it, and the best camera to use is usually the one you have. I say that a lot of YouTube channels out there, model railroad and otherwise, are doing everything on their phone these days. I mean, phones have incredible cameras, and with just a little bit of work on the sound side, you can do great stuff with the phone. But I had that camera. First thing I invested in was I needed some lighting, and so not being ready to spend any significant money yet because I didn't know if this thing would ever have any income or not. I went to the hardware store and bought a couple of those clamp lamps, that you use to heat your chicks with so they don't freeze in the winter or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and they have a guard over them, and so I literally created a filter with wax paper taped to the guard over the front of these clamp lamps, and that was my first lighting. And then I used that lighting setup for 9 months. It was that Christmas that I asked my family to buy me some soft boxes that I still use to this day. But and I still pull out one of them clamp lamps once in a while when I just need a little extra light on a subject somewhere. It's just easy to clamp on something and flip on. For when it comes to doing video, probably the most important thing to pay attention to first is sound. The old video adage is that people will tolerate mediocre video. They will not tolerate poor sound for long. I mean, if something sounds bad, if they're struggling to hear it, if it's too loud, if it's too noisy, they're gonna click away. So I invested early on in literally a $50 microphone that I used forever. I've upgraded since then, but that $50 mic worked great for me for close to a year. And but again, how did I pick those things? I literally watched YouTube videos. Okay, what's the best microphone for under $100 for YouTube? What's the best budget camera, or DSLR? I still use DSLR cameras. I have three that I use today. They're all Canons. Two of them are 1080p cameras, and then I got a newer 4K camera that I use because I'm discovering more and more a changing trend on YouTube is that, when I first started, everybody watched YouTube on their phones. And now almost half of my views are people watching it on televisions, large screens. So I need I need that higher resolution to make sure that
Yeah. Right.
quality picture. So
So
go ahead.
I was going to say a follow up to the lighting and the camera.
Uh-huh.
Did you notice you had to maybe tweak the layout because, oh, I got this lighting on here, I got the camera. Oh, those are showing some warts, or that didn't come out the way I really wanted it to on the layout. So now I've got to come back around because it is for me. I was doing a video the other day. I go, what was I thinking on this, scenery over here? This does not look good at all, and came back and was starting to tweak a section I thought was finished, which you're never finished with your model railroad.
Right.
But I was just wondering if you catch the same thing because the camera catches something the human eye doesn't with the advanced lighting and everything that you have.
Yeah. Well, so much so that now, even if I'm not making video, if I'm building a model or weathering a model, when I think I'm getting close to done, I take photographs and I look at the photographs because why I can't see it with the naked eye, but it glares at me through a photograph. I don't know, but that's exactly how it is. So yeah, definitely so. And I when you're trying to take, especially like quality photographs for a thumbnail or for an Instagram post, you try to pick those spots and those angles, which again, a lot of my layout is far from done, so it's not like it's all finished scenery. But at least I'm trying to get away from, like you say, the real warts that like, okay, I need to go back and take care of that at some point before that makes its way into a photograph. Yeah, absolutely.
So for me, the goofy part of that is I actually find myself just from now that I've started doing videos on my layout and at some of the shows, when I'm building a scene, because my layout is still a work in progress too, my mind automatically goes to how will that frame? How will I be able to frame this so that
Sure.
you don't wanna see, maybe a seam and a backdrop if you have that or whatever it is. You wanna be able to have the one of your favorite scenes, but have it have nothing stand out that says, "Ooh, there's that looks like a model, not like a real scene." It's weird how your mind does that, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And and on the flip side of that, it also is extremely gratifying whenever you can put something on a photograph or in a video and somebody says, "I thought that was real."
For
Uh,
sure.
I've got a short, a YouTube short that I made, oh, it's probably 3 years ago. I had been working on the upper deck on this new kind of North Texas open country scene, and I was excited about doing that. I had a reference photo, and I really liked the scene, and I've been really happy as to how that's coming together. And I used some quality scenery products on that. Really, really worked hard on that. And then I made a little short that started with a picture of that scene, and then it kind of panned over to the products that I had used in the scene. And I lost track. It's the most popular short I've ever had. Several tens of thousands of views, which is a lot for me for a short. And I lost track of how many people said, I thought that was a picture of a real place until you panned over to the other stuff. That's gratifying. Like, okay, that you know you've done it. At that
Yeah.
point. So
I
that's
can
exciting.
I can remember one of our guys on Iron City. It is gratifying. He said I could still remember it, even though it happened like a year and a half ago. I posted a video, and he said, "I can't tell where the layout stops and where your backdrop begins." And that
Oh
kind of
yeah,
stuff is very gratifying because
yeah.
you at least got something right. If not everything, at least you got
Yeah.
that part right. So
Well, and that particular thing that you just mentioned is both one of the most important and one of the hardest things to accomplish in realism is completely making that transition from layout to backdrop disappear.
yep,
It's hard to do in some places, especially. And if you when you can accomplish that, yeah, you've really got something.
for sure.
Ron, Brad and I talk about this all the time with our layout designs because Brad and I are still under construction. I think I will be for the next 30 years, but
I understand.
I, I find myself kicking myself in the butt every once in a while, going, "Wow, I didn't leave myself much rail fanning on this side of the layout," or "Wow, I really wish I could angle something better over here where I'm doing some operations at my mill to do some more rail fanning," or "Hey, I don't have enough light." Do you find yourself like when you're designing layouts or you're looking at someone's layout or someone asks you for advice on layout, do you find yourself having that social media in the back of your head about videos and photographs? And we do, Brad and I do a lot of live streaming, kind of like rail cams.
Sure,
uh,
yeah.
you know do you find yourself thinking about that when you're building a layout? Maybe people didn't think about that 30 years ago, but now they're thinking about it all the time. Is that something that comes across?
Yeah, to some extent anyway. I think what goes through my mind is less the social media thing and more the I'm building this layout for operations, and so I probably am too conscious of okay, that guy that I think is just a fantastic modeler when he comes into my basement, what's going to be the thought that's going through his head whenever he sees this. That thought is in my head a lot. Probably too much as far as that's concerned. But I am a firm believer in always striving, to be a little bit better. In fact, kind of the mission statement of Ron's Trains and Things is sharing model railroad tips, tools, and techniques to help you be able to build a better model railroad. Because that's what I want. I don't aspire tomorrow to be able to build the best layout in the state or in the country. I aspire tomorrow to be 1% better than I was today. So always trying to be a little bit better, trying to help other people to be a little bit better. So yeah, I've always got that. What I definitely always have in my mind, again, this is my second big, I guess my third layout, but my second major layout. I started it 14 years ago. And so I look at some things that I did 14 years ago that if I could do over, I would sure do differently. But I'm not going to tear it all up to do it again tomorrow because I want to do those things differently. I don't want to. My track choice is primary among those. When I moved here, again, started this layout, you still had on the market in scale rolling stock that had the big pizza cutter wheel flanges. And so I used Code 80 track. I would give anything to be able to wave a magic wand and turn that into Code 55. but I'm not going to tear it all up to redo that. My photograph, every time I take a picture of it, I kind of wish I could, but it makes you work a little bit harder at hiding the size of the track. You work a little harder at weathering the track, and if you can do that really, really well, you can minimize that particular flaw. And yeah.
So Ron, you said something very important. You said you work with a lot of beginners and you work with a lot of people that are getting back into the hobby.
Hmm.
How do you let's say promote or encourage people? Hey, you don't have to look like you're on the cover of Model Railroad magazine, or you don't have to be, you know, the best modeler to share your work, to put it out there and to become part of the community. Have you felt a lot of people? I know I do a lot. I'm like, oh, I don't want to show that. I'm not that great of a modeler, or hey, this really needs a lot of work. But once in a while, I'll just say the heck with it. I'm going to publish this, and anyhow, and it's always been good feedback. It's never been negative feedback. How do you get new modelers into social media to maybe publish what they're working on?
Well, I'm always encouraging it, and I think in part it comes down to, again, that value that I just mentioned of always being about trying to be a little bit better. The first step in being a little bit better is to recognize where I am. you know so it's okay to be wherever you are, because we've all been somewhere else, not as far down the road as we are now at some point. It's only when we take a look at where we are and get that input that we can improve. And the other thing, I think, in fact, I've actually been rolling around in my mind. I don't do a lot of talking head types of videos, but I'm going to do one coming up. And I've done this before, but I just think sometimes it needs to be readdressed. And that is helping people to understand that we all have different goals, in our model railroading, and that's okay. Some people, their primary, I know some huge layouts, I'm sure you guys do too, that are incredible operating layouts that have absolutely no or very, very little scenery.
Hmm.
If y'all are familiar with Joe Casper and his huge in-scale layout in Kansas City as a primary example of that, he's begun, mostly friends of his have begun adding some scenery, but he's got this massive, massive basement empire, and the closest thing he had for years to scenery was some plaster cloth that was painted green, and that was just it, because that just wasn't his goal. His primary focus was building a large operating layout. Maybe your goal is not operations at all, but it is that scenery thing. I just want to build something that's really photogenic or really looks realistic. Figure out what's most important to you and focus on that, and be okay with the fact that somebody else may say, oh well, you should do this different. Well, what you should do is what meets your goals, what makes you happy, and what brings the greatest enjoyment out of the hobby to you yourself.
So as we close out here, we want to say, Ron, thank you so much for coming on this evening. Uh, this is probably going to be a two-part series because we had so many questions to ask you. But my final question this evening is, what big projects do you see on the horizon for 26, either digitally or layout? And what are you really looking forward to? And what do you have on that whiteboard that says, hey, I'm going to get this done this year?
I have to chuckle at that question a little bit for two reasons. Number one, the past couple of years have really, I just had a lot of challenges in my work life before I retired and personal life, and so it's felt like getting videos out consistently have been a struggle. That has made real improvement here lately, so I'm excited about that. The other reason I chuckle is I know that the best way to get people to click on a YouTube video from about model railroading, at least for my channel, is whenever I both say and show that I'm going to tear something up. Um, one of one of the biggest videos in the first 24 hours was the day I tore my old Helix down, and the thumbnail was a picture of this Helix laying on the floor in pieces. Man, that got clicks. Well,
I
I
was
got
one
about
of them.
yeah. Well, I've got about 3 areas of my layout that just have to have major overhauls. And so there's going to be some thumbnails coming up over the next 12 months that are going to include sledgehammer through some scenery in a couple of places. The and I'm not doing that just for clicks. I'm doing it because there are a couple of things that I hate, you know,
Right.
and if I hate it, then it's not serving its primary goal, which is to make me happy. so
Right.
so that's gonna be a big thing. Lately, anybody who's been following my channel, I kind of go on these spurts of structure building, and as I'm trying to really populate this expanded area, man, I've been building structures like crazy. In fact, I'm working on a big structure right now for this passenger station scene that I've been working on the last few weeks, and so that's kind of going, but that's probably going to kind of go by the wayside. I'm really ADHD in general, but in my model railroading. So I have a tendency to get really, really gung ho on a project or on a scene. And then I come to a mental block, and then I may walk away from it for a week or for a month or for a year. But I've got some inspiration on a couple of those scenes, that North Texas scenery scene, and it runs into a farm scene that I started a year or so ago. Those kind of connect. I'm excited about getting back to those this year, and they've got some neat things. I've got an operating radio tower that's going to go on a hill up there that I'm really excited about getting built. So there's several things, and most of them are scenery oriented. So people who like scenery stuff, especially if you like to see somebody that made some mistakes in scenery and we're going to make it better, we're going to see a lot of that coming on Ron's Trains and Things in 2026.
Well,
That's
that's
awesome.
definitely something to look forward to.
Yeah.
We'll be
So
tuned in for sure.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
so we've been here with Ron Marsh from Ron's Trains and Things. And Ron, thanks so much, man. We took a lot of time up from your life tonight, and but we had so many questions to ask you, and I'm sure we're going to have you back on as soon as we can to see how these projects are doing and follow along. And we're also hope to have you back maybe as a yard master, maybe to talk some how tos if people have questions and stuff on the podcast. We'd love to have you back.
Sure,
Um,
sounds great. I had a great time, and yeah, look forward to being back on.
I enjoyed it a lot too, Ron. I'll echo what Pat said. Thank you for joining us. And
Absolutely.
everybody who's listening here, make sure if you haven't checked out Ron's social media platforms, he's on YouTube, Ron Trains and Things, Ron's Trains and Things. And it's also Ron's Trains and Things on Facebook, if I'm not mistaken. Is that
Well,
correct?
I've got a couple of, but my active Facebook group is Ron's Crew Lounge. So if you
Oh,
search that
that's
on
right.
Facebook, you can get
Yep.
on there and share what you're doing and get questions answered and interact with some of the audience. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. So thanks
okay.
again. And Pat, are you going to take us out of here?
Yeah, I'll take us out. And Ron, thanks again. Brad and I will be right back to close out the show right after this. Hey, welcome back, Iron City. Brad, great episode. That was part 2 of Ron Marsh. Ron's a great guy. Man, he could talk about any topic, and it's just fun to listen. Great interaction between you and me and Ron this evening, and just a great show.
Yeah, it's always fun talking to Ron. He's got a social media presence, so he definitely has the gift of gab, the gift of talking about things and keeping it very interesting. So thanks to Ron for coming on with us for not just one, but 2 episodes. That was great, talking about those 2 very important aspects, kind of similar to what we were talking about with our Facebook page and the the Roundhouse Report. He has his modeling that he does, his layout. That was one of the episodes we talked, or one of the topic for episode, what was it, episode 5. And now with this episode 6, we switched gears and talked about his social media activities. So yes, definitely very enjoyable. And I hope we can have Ron back on again sometime very soon.
Yeah. Hey, Brad, as we close out tonight's episode, let's just go over the Iron City has been very busy.
No
E-
doubt.
Everything from the Erie train show to the Morgantown train show to Iron City East, which I know you want to talk a little bit about their show, some other shows coming up, our rally. So, Brad, why don't I just let you hit a couple of highlights on the east side there?
Yeah, we had, as we are recording this yesterday, well, from what day, it won't be yesterday when everybody hears it, obviously, but we had the Clinton Central had our spring show, which the Iron City East guys set up a T-track setup, a small T-track setup, and we had a good time, had a pretty good turnout to it, and the vendors all seemed pleased. I posted a couple videos of Ricky, the ace engineer Larson, running his train. It's always funny because he'll say something like, "Oh, this train's running really good," and as soon as I start the camera, the car, it was seconds after I started the camera up, that passenger train came on, came uncoupled right in front of the camera. But yeah, it was great having Rick there. He has two little kids at home now, and kind of blows my mind away that I still remember him in ninth grade in school, but he's a father of two wonderful little kids now, and he doesn't have obviously as much time as he used to when we first started, a couple years ago with the Iron City East Track. So we were all glad that Ricky could make it, and it's sometimes difficult to keep him and Nick Wummer from fighting with each other. If you think Kevin, our buddy Kevin, and I fight a lot, you should see Nick and Ricky. Neil Monis and I just kind of shake our heads. It's like a three-ring circus. But yeah, we had a good time. We discovered, and we should have done this before, but it would, you just get in a hurry. But we decided that the tables at this fire hall, some of them don't line up height wise real well. So Nick was good enough to bring some shims, and we shimmed these tables up to start with a nice even base, and it just made leveling those modules up so much easier. So the layout ran smooth for the most part until Ricky applied his own special touch to it, and then we had a few issues. But we call him the Shortmeister when he comes to run on my layout, because he can find a way to short a layout out like nobody I've ever seen. But no, we like to pick on him, but he's a really good guy. And Mike Barnes was there too, who I know you've met, and Andy Ludwig was there. Neil, of course, who is always there with Iron City East. So just a really good bunch of guys there too, and it was great hanging out with them. It's just a 1 day show. It goes from 9 o'clock till 2, and I had to get out of there quick because my granddaughter's second birthday party was yesterday, right
Oh,
after the
wow.
train show. So the guys were all nice enough to help me get my stuff loaded up so I could get off to that. But yeah, we had a good time at that, and it was a great event. And thanks to all the help from it's really cool to see, because when we first started this, I was basically one of the only ones who had ever built a T-track layout or wired one up or planned one out. But Ricky and Nick, Neil wasn't able to be there for setup, but Ricky and Nick just did a fantastic job with, it's nice when you get to the point where you don't have to tell people what to do. They just know what to do. And I could focus on getting the command station wired up while those two went around and leveled everything and plugged in modules. So it just was an enjoyable setup right from the beginning, just because of everyone pitching in like that. So thanks to those two. And speaking of episodes that we're planning in the future, we do at some point want to have those Iron City East guys on with us to talk about what they're doing too. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, that was the big event from this past weekend. It's kind of nice because you can set up Saturday, so I don't have to, get done working and then rush home and then rush back over to set up like it would be on a Friday. So we had it on a Sunday, and the turnout was good. Like I said, the vendors who came to sell stuff were happy with the turnout. So all in all, a good weekend.
Excellent. And Brad, we wouldn't be Iron City if we didn't have our rally in the spring. And That's going to be the rally at Burnham, where it's Todd Treaster and the Iron City T-Track all together in one location. Brad, you want to tell them a little bit about that?
Yeah, the everything is coming together for the rally, where basically it's a dual show, I guess you could call it. But for it's not really a show; it's just a get together where people can come and run trains on Todd's N scale layout, which is one of the most spectacular looking and running layouts that's in N scale that you're ever going to see. And it's DC. He doesn't have DCC, but it's proof that you can have a really good running and operating layout with good old fashioned DC, which is the way we did it for years. And then, like Pat mentioned, Todd's kind enough to provide us nice space in his 2-car garage where we can set up a T-track layout in conjunction with that. So that will be on Saturday, April 11th. I think we're going from 9 until sometime in the afternoon. It might be 9 to 3. I don't recall, but I'm sure Todd will correct me if I'm wrong. That'll be going on Saturday. And the one unfortunate part, we were working on possibly another event in conjunction with that would have happened on Sunday. But unfortunately, that does not appear to be going to be able to work out for us for this year. That might be something we can try to do in the future. But if there are people in the area who are from out of, not from Central PA and are spending the night Saturday night, if there's interest, we could possibly put a rail fanning trip together or something for Sunday. So don't feel that just because this event didn't work out that, you're going to not have anything to do on Sunday. If there's interest, and it's just not going to be a big planned thing, it'll just be a spontaneous thing. If somebody, decides they want to do some rail fanning on Sunday, even if it's only 3 or 4 of us, whatever the case may be. But the rally setup for it will be Friday night. The crew will be there setting up the T-track layout in his garage, and then we'll be running that rally on Saturday, just like we did last year. So if you're in the Central PA area, some people I know already have plans to come from pretty far away, but if you're in the area, you're always more than welcome to come and show up for some trains and some good food and good fellowship. So looking forward to meeting many people and getting to talk to many people at that rally in Burnham this year on Saturday, April 11th. So that's the rally.
Brad, one last thing that we're just scratching the surface on because we don't have concrete dates yet is we believe, in theory, that the Iron City is going to try to rustle up as many guys as we can, either at the Curve or in Pittsburgh, and watch the big boy come through as a group. And so we're not there yet, but we're going to get there. They're coming to the East Coast. We're going to find a way. If there's a will, there's a way. And try to get
I don't think UP has released any super firm dates for that yet that I've seen anyway. But I've heard the rumor that it is going to be, I believe, headed when it's on its trip back west. It's going to come through Philly, then Harrisburg, and may even be on display for a day at Altoona. I've heard, but I don't know that UP has actually confirmed any of that yet. But yeah, when more details are known, I would love it if we could get a bunch of Iron City folks together to meet up someplace and watch that thing go through. That would be really cool. I've never actually seen that myself. I remember when when they first put it back in, into operation, it cruised on the UP main line through Nebraska, and it stopped at a town I believe called Fremont, which is about a half hour to the north of where my sister and her family live. And I told her this was happening. She's really not even a rail fan, but she and her husband Paul and my nieces Grace and Leela drove up there to Fremont and took videos and pictures and stuff and sent them to me. So I have seen, up close videos of it and things like that, but I've never actually laid eyes on it myself. So I do, whether it's in New York or anywhere else, East Coast, someplace, I would love to be able to take a trip to see it in person.
Well, hopefully, Brad, this summer is going to be a good one, and hopefully be able to see that.
Yes, I hope it works out too.
Okay, everybody, we are on the Iron City InScale Facebook page, and you can send us a note. You can post You can DM us, you can tag us, and we'll talk to you on the Iron City InSkill page. We want to thank everyone for posting. We've got a lot of new people posting. We're looking at those layouts, looking at what you're doing as modelers. It's outstanding work. Thank you so much. It's the Iron City InSkill Facebook page. Hey, if you want to listen to us like you're doing right now, especially if you're new, hey, we're at Apple Podcasts, we're at YouTube, which Brad's got videos on there too now. So you got our show, you get videos, a lot of extras on the YouTube channel. We're on Podbean, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Player FM, Listen Note, Podchaser, and Boomplay. And on a lot of, I don't even realize that we're on because of the new systems that people have purchased, and they're linked to the other big names here. You go and look for a podcast, type us up. It's the Iron City Roundhouse Report. You'll find us. So with that, Brad, I'll give you the final word. Thanks so much for our special guest, Ron Marsh. And go ahead, Brad, and take us out.
Okay, thanks, Pat. And a special thanks to Ron Marsh for joining us again. We appreciate so much that you took the time to have a chat with us, and it was very enjoyable. A lot of good information and interesting information that he had about between the two shows, both about his layout that he's working on and about his very, very successful YouTube channel, Ron's Trains and Things. So thank you very much to our special guest, Ron, for being here. And I will just echo what Pat said. Thanks again. I know I keep saying it, but I just hope everybody realizes how much we do appreciate your support, your feedback. We've gotten so much help from so many people to make things better for our listeners. And we thank you all for continuing to listen and for continuing to provide that feedback and for participating on the Iron City Facebook page. It's all, both are important parts of what's becoming a really cool, dual attack type thing, I guess. So thank you so much for that. And thank you for joining us on another episode of the Iron City Roundhouse Report. All right, rail fans, that's all the steam we've got for this edition of the Iron City Roundhouse Report. Until next time, keep those gauges green, your couplers connected, and may your layouts always run smoothly. Happy railroading.